your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition.
Hello, I'm Naveen Day. Thanks for joining us for a look at what's been making headlines in Alberta. The trial of Chris Carbert and Anthony Olenek continues to review evidence and data from seized cell phones from the accused men at the Coutts border blockade. Landon Hickok was at the Lethbridge courthouse and has more details.
Throughout the week, we have been pulling through data and evidence through phones that were seized at the Coutts border blockade, those who belonged to Anthony Olenek, Chris Carbert, and Jerry Morin, who was put on a plea bargain back in February of this year alongside Chris Lysak. Now, we understand that Carbert and Olenek each said that they were willing to die for the cause if police officers acted in a violent manner. Both Carbert and Olenek were making death arrangements, allegedly to friends and family. Olenek told one of his friends in a message, "If I die, please feed my cat and take my guns." And Chris Carbert was also in conversation with his mother and pleading with her to understand, the sooner you wake up to what's happening, the sooner you'll understand why I have to do what I do. We've also seen evidence through Chris Carbert's phone, many images of firearms and various weaponry with the location data that was on track back to his residence here in Lethbridge. In other messages, Anthony Olenek shared his concern about the police officers who were there after they allegedly disabled phones of protesters as well as vandalized 2 excavators at the Coutts border blockade. Now, defense has stated that regarding the content in these messages, Crown should not take them so literally, as they may not be precisely what the 2 men have been actually intending.
The mother of one of the accused, Betty Carbert, says things have been very tough on her son since he has been held up for close to 2 years now. She says what has made things extremely difficult is that Chris has not spent much time with his children.
He was a single dad, and so needless to say, he doesn't get to see his kids like he used to, and he misses them tremendously. And it's in every other aspect, because every day he wakes up hoping this is a nightmare, and thinks he's going to go home, and it never happens. Of course, I can't speak of the information that they supposedly have on the men, but I will say that it seems a little fudged, for a lack of a better word.
The Alberta government announced new funding for testing methane emissions reduction technologies. Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz says $15 million will be spent over the next 5 years to test new technologies, reduce emissions, and create jobs. Officials say the funding will help more Alberta companies test technologies free of charge in both laboratory and live settings, and attract more investment to get technologies to market faster.
This $15 million investment brings our total commitment to more than $72 million for methane reduction programs and technologies in recent years. But our dedication goes beyond dollars. We have reviewed more than 15,000 sites and facilities, generating over 16 million tons of emissions reductions. And again, we're proving that you can have it all. You can have strong economic growth. You can have rising energy production to meet global demand for safe, affordable, reliable, secure energy, and of course, commit to a lower emissions future.
Officials say so far more than 70 companies have already tested projects through this program, helping advance clean technologies being used in Alberta and around the world. Legal Aid Alberta says it is ending its services on Tuesday over a contract dispute with the province. The society says government officials gave it an ultimatum on a new funding arrangement that would undermine its independence. It says the government's move came suddenly after months of negotiations. The province says it is committed to funding legal aid, but must also spend tax dollars carefully. The United Conservative Party has launched a new ad campaign to introduce Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's choice for Alberta, new Alberta NDP leader Naheed Nenshi. The party says the ads expose Nenshi's cozy relationship with the Liberal Party, whom he campaigned for in 2015 to defeat Stephen Harper. And here's some good news for Calgarians as we enjoy the kickoff to the Calgary Stampede. Most indoor pools reopened on Thursday. The move came as water restrictions tied to a water main break are slowly being lifted. Swimming lessons are also resuming. All restrictions on indoor water use have ended. And it looks like the Alberta NDP wants a divorce from its federal counterparts. Our legislative reporter has more details after the break. Welcome back. The big story in Alberta politics recently has been Nenshi's huge victory as the new leader of the provincial NDP. According to our legislative reporter and the Alberta correspondent for the National Post, Tyler Dawson, the newly elected leader is looking at severing ties with the federal NDP. He explains why, and if he feels Nenshi's easy win should come as a surprise.
I think I was surprised by the size of that overall number, but maybe not surprised that he received such a large proportion of the votes. About 67,000 votes, that's a huge number of votes. When Jason Kenney won, he got about 35,000 votes. And when Danielle Smith won, I think she had 32 or 33,000 votes. So this is an absolutely overwhelming endorsement from the New Democratic Party members. And there's a couple of possible explanations for that. It was less acrimonious, certainly, than some of the UCP leadership debates. Fewer issues on the table than when Jason Kenney became leader back in 2018 or 2019 after the merger and all that. So, it's a pretty different situation in some ways, but an absolutely overwhelming endorsement from the party. I think the most votes a party leader has got in the leadership contest in Alberta dating back at least to 2006, probably earlier than that. So, this says a couple things. First of all, it gives Nenshi, a very, very solid sort of endorsement of his leadership. But it also suggests, or rather confirms, or is another bit of information about what we already knew, which is that there's been a huge increase in the NDP membership during this leadership race. The party is almost certainly the largest it's ever been. It's grown from between 16 and 30,000 members to perhaps upwards of 80,000 members, I think is what the party was saying at one point. And that you've had 67,000 vote for Nenshi, and then 2,000 or 3,000 here and there for the other candidates, for maybe a total of 75,000 votes. That also means you've got a huge number of activated, involved, and curious members, which is a really important thing to have going into the next few years in opposition, thinking about looking ahead to that next election.
Was it the Nenshi camp, however, that brought in a lot of the new members?
It does seem to have been sort of overwhelmingly Nenshi's supporters. That's a good thing for him personally, in the sense that he's going to have a loyal base when they get to policy discussions and things like that at the convention. He might not have as much trouble as he may have otherwise. It also, if these people stay engaged, stay enthusiastic, it also means that he's going to have volunteers, he's going to have people knocking on doors. And of course, depending how many of these people he brought in from Calgary versus new members he signed up from elsewhere in the province, that also means that he's going to have a ready base of support within Calgary, which is going to be sort of the all-important battleground most likely in the next election. These people can be doing the things I just mentioned, knocking on doors, fundraising, putting signs in their yard, and sort of helping to sculpt or shift perceptions that Calgarians are going to have of his leadership.
So Nenshi as well, Tyler, says they're looking into the potential of severing ties with the federal NDP, which many would argue is a pretty good idea.
Yeah, the federal NDP and the Alberta NDP are, of course, in disagreement on a lot of major issues. The sort of classic example of that is when the federal Liberals bought the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion when it looked like it was going to fail. Rachel Notley supported that at the time. And Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the federal NDP, thought it was, a terribly anti-environment decision and did not support it. And the federal NDP is presently propping up the federal Liberals government, and the Alberta NDP is sort of tied to that in some way. And obviously that's a very, very unpopular government in the province. So, this relationship between the two parties is, if you didn't know it existed on paper, you almost wouldn't know it existed at all, because there has been such areas of disagreement, and Jagmeet Singh is not, flying in regularly to join the party leader at rallies and things like that. So there already is sort of this separation in many ways on policy, on positions on various issues. So Yep. So this is the debate is going to happen. It is probably also going to be acrimonious because there are longtime Alberta NDP members who are believers in this relationship and believers in the federal NDP as well. And so that divorce for them could be uncomfortable or something they don't like.
Tyler, big news in our city, and that Lethbridge West MLA Shanna Phillips is giving up her seat on July the 1st. It's the only seat the NDP holds outside of Edmonton and Calgary. Now, some thought it might be a riding where Nenshi could run, but you don't really see it that way.
No, and he's been asked about it, and he's basically said, look, I think it's important that a party leader, if they're elected to represent a constituency, should in fact spend some time in that constituency. So it's unlikely, I think, that he, at this point anyways, is going to want to represent a riding a couple hours away from where his home base is.
Coming up, there is an Alberta grassroots conservative group which says there should be a leadership review of our premiers every couple of years. Sometimes there are groups which try to influence a political party's policy one way or the other. A new group has been formed in Alberta which is trying to do just that. It is called the 1905 Committee. Co-founder Nadine Wellwood explains why she felt the need to start up her organization.
1905 is when Alberta became a province. And when we were trying to find an appropriate name, I kept emphasizing, what if we could do it all over again? And then we kind of thought about, well, the beginning and where we're going. And 1905 Committee is what we came up with.
So tell us a bit about your background in provincial politics and explain why you felt the need to start up the 1905 Committee.
Absolutely. So my background provincially started actually from a federal perspective, and I had started doing some work with the People's Party of Canada in 2019, 2021. And then when Daniel Smith was elected the leader of the UCP, I thought we would see some true grassroots changes there. And I decided to throw my hat in the ring, actually for the Livingston-McLeod riding. And I was disqualified, regrettably, by the executive at the UCP. I guess I have very strong opinions, and that's not always popular with party politics. I'm not, I guess, as easy to control as they would like. And from there, my background is a chartered investment manager, so I've been obviously following economics for at least 2 decades, and of course, politics drives a lot of the economy. And so when politics sort of arose as an opportunity for me to get involved, I took kind of my background and meshed that a little bit with what I have been learning over the last 6 years. And thus we looked at what was missing, truly missing in the space as far as true representation by the people. And 1905 was born.
So Nadine, what are some of your core goals with the organization 1905 Committee?
So some of the core goals, really, I'd say that if you had to pick one, it's about leadership accountability. A promise made needs to be a promise kept. And it doesn't matter who I speak with from any different political background, they all agree that if you're going to campaign and you're going to run an election, you need to follow through once you've been elected on those promises. And so one of the policies I probably would think our most popular policy that we are now currently pushing here in the next UCP PM is leadership accountability. So you have 24 months to fulfill your campaign promises, verbal or written, doesn't matter. You made a promise, you have 24 months to keep it. If not, you go back to a leadership review, and now you have to account to the people who elected you as to why you did not fulfill those promises.
Nadine, you just recently launched. What kind of interest has your group been generating so far?
We have generated quite a bit of buzz, actually. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, people trying to figure out how we fit into the political spectrum, which is great for us because, of course, it's really gotten the word out there. People know we're here and we exist. So it's been a lot of fun, very exciting. But the reality is, we've got Edmonton's attention. And I think that's really what we've been trying to do. And we are attracting people from all different political spectrums and all different backgrounds. Obviously, we have a more of a conservative focus, but the principles, we are about principles and policy. And because we're about principles and policy, we really do appeal to a lot more people in a very unifying kind of way.
So what is your current view of our Premier, Danielle Smith?
I think Danielle Smith has done some things well, but I think there's been a lot of campaign promises that have been made that just haven't been kept. And I think there's been some, in my opinion, poor judgment decisions made. We did a Redford survey poll, and a lot of people didn't agree with the fact that she appointed Alison Redford to a Crown Corporation. Of all the people in this province, as far as even conservatives, I think Alison Redford is one of the least liked. And I think that was a poor judgment decision on her part. She's promised tax reduction. She hasn't followed through on that. For me, it's about priority. If you're going to, talk about a high-speed train between Calgary and Edmonton before reducing taxes, as you have promised in your campaign, I think, again, that's a lack of judgment.
Up next, long before Calgary first hosted the greatest outdoor show on earth, the town of Raymond started their own stampede, and it has been running ever since. The Calgary Stampede is world famous for being the greatest outdoor show on earth, but it is not the first. The town of Raymond is the holder of that title. I sat down with Ron McMullen, who is the president of the Raymond Historical Society. He shared a brief history of his town with our viewers. He also gave a brief history of the Raymond Stampede Rodeo and when and how this event came to be. Take a look.
Raymond Knight was the one who started the first stampede. He managed a large ranch for his father, Jesse Knight, over 220,000 acres of land. And so one thing he wanted to see was a competition between all the ranches. So he invited them to come to the town of Raymond, named after him, to have a competition. So the first rodeo consisted just of two events: not saddle bronc riding, bareback riding, and also steer roping. And there were no prize money. It was just the pride money, you might say. So that happened in 1902.
And you mentioned how the town of Raymond is actually named after a person named Raymond Knight, who is one of the sons of Jesse Knight, who was a mining owner from Utah. And so what was it that sparked an interest for Raymond to come to Canada?
Okay, we need to go back to Jesse's background. Jesse actually owned the ranch at age 22, just 2 miles west of Payson, Utah. And so he was a rancher at heart. But he got interested in finding ore, like others, in some limestones. And so he felt impressed to go to one certain place, and then his son started digging, and a month later came upon a large amount of silver. And so he had enough silver and money. He bought out 6 mining operations, and eventually had $10 million, which was a lot of money back then. And so he had money, and a number of people, of course, would propose different things to him for ventures. And a fellow named John Taylor, who lived up here, and also Charles McCarty, made a proposal to him that he come up in this area and buy a ranch. And so he sent 2 of his sons, Raymond and Will, up to this area to look over things. And they went back and reported, and then John Taylor and Charles McCarty went down to Utah, and Mr. Knight, Jesse, bought 30,000 acres of land near Spring Coulee. Having invested some money, he decided he'd come up and explore things himself and see it. And when he came up, he was quite enthused. And so he bought another 220,000 acres of land. And so as he came up, he mulled over a request in a talk given by the LDS Church president, where He said, men and women of wealth and means, open your vaults and your purses and create employment for those who need the labor. And when he arrived here, he thought about things for a few days and had a clear idea as to what he wanted to do. So he was going to build a sugar factory and create a town. And that he did.
Now, you just mentioned the Latter-day Saints Church in your last answer there. Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the 1,500 residents of Raymond were LDS church members who immigrated to Canada. And one of the reasons is that there were jobs available with the Raymond Sugar Factory that Jesse Knight started up, right?
That's exactly right. And so it was a new opportunity for people. For example, my great-grandfather, Alonzo McMullen, came here in 1902. So the time the sugar factory was being built. It actually took 2 years to build the sugar factory, creating a lot of jobs. So the town actually went from one person in 1901 to 1,560 or so in 1903 when the sugar factory was complete. So there were a lot of people came because of the jobs.
Now, Jesse Knight also made a stipulation that the town of Raymond was to be free from alcohol. And it's very interesting that this is still the case today in Raymond.
Yeah, it was in our charter for, it was a charter for 99 years. And alternatives have been discussed in the community. And the decision is made that as of now, that will be the case. Raymond is still a dry town.
We need to take a quick break, but when we return, local stories from around southern Alberta. Welcome back. Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services has a new group of firefighters to serve the Lethbridge community when an emergency arises. With a graduation ceremony, officials, family, and friends welcomed 7 new recruits. BCN's Heidi Echeverria has the story.
With a special graduation ceremony, a group of 5 men and 2 women were inducted into the Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services. This step was achieved after hard training that lasted months and in which they managed to demonstrate their capacity and skills to work as a single body to rescue and save lives. Sean Larkin says how was his experience as recruit training officer.
Like kind of your kids graduating from high school, so it's an exciting day for sure. They showed up early every single day. They worked extremely hard. They did come in as a group of individuals. They really bound together and found a way to get through everything I threw at them, and I threw a ton of stuff at them. So they handled everything with pride and with professionalism. The need is huge. We're continually growing. We're continually trying to get better. And a group like this that's highly motivated and dedicated to learning and growing and becoming professional firefighters is absolutely necessary, right? With the way we're growing and the things that we're doing, the way we lead by not just in fire but in EMS as well, we really take pride in the fact that we're on the forefront. We're changing the way other services in the province respond to emergencies because we take it very seriously.
Give your best effort and serve the community with love and professionalism were the words that were heard the most during the ceremony.
Working hard. It means pushing yourself every single day to do your best and to be your best, and constantly training and trying to get better. Because you can only ever go up. You can only learn more, train harder. So
these firefighters are now ready to give their all in the field and even face fire.
The Lethbridge Farmers Market returned to the downtown core. Vendors were excited about heading outdoors once again for the summer months. This is the 3rd year that the market has partnered with the Downtown Lethbridge BRZ. It is an event that many look forward to each year.
It is very significant for us as it's our only event throughout the year where we get to get off of our campus and out into the community. And giving back to the community is really at the core of what Lethbridge and District Exhibition is all about. So to have this event in downtown, to partner with a great group like the Business Revitalization Zone, gives us the opportunity to get out into the community, to serve a different audience, and to give people downtown the opportunity to have that weekly chance to shop local and support local vendors. So it's an event that we look forward to every year.
I love the diversity of people that I see and just the different types of people. And yeah, everybody is so wonderful and kind, and it's fun to visit and get to know people.
The Outdoor Festival Square Farmers Market runs every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Southern Alberta Summer Games kicked off this week, and the event featured the opening of a new recreation center in the town of Coaldale. BCN's Landon Hincock has the details.
The town of Coaldale is celebrating the grand opening of a massive recreation center in town. Wednesday saw a ribbon-cutting ceremony to officially welcome all visitors to its facilities. The opening comes at the same day where the town is hosting the opening ceremonies of the Southern Alberta Summer Games at the Rec Center later that day.
We have just under 1,800 athletes, along with their coaches, their families. So that'll bring several thousand people into Coaldale and the region. And the economic spin-off will be great for our businesses in the town of Coaldale and city of Lethbridge and other communities as well.
The Rec Center consists of many available activities, including playing fields for soccer, basketball, volleyball, and other sports, a squash court, a fitness center and track, and a large indoor playground for children. The Rec Center was built alongside a secondary school at the north side of the property, and the mayor says this will bring a huge boost to the community.
This has been a long time coming. I was on my first term on council. When council at the time, we voted to put $1 million away for a future recreation facility. And now we fast forward almost 8 years, and here we are today with the opening of the new facility.
How are things shaping up on the economic landscape of Southern Alberta? Executive Director for Economic Development Lethbridge, Trevor Lewington, has that answer next.